Right in the depths of your silent breakdown, when not even your own voice could reach your heart, I entered, not with thunder, but with the gentle roar of a savior who refuses to let you break alone. My precious soul, you didn't see me walk in, not because I was far away, but because I stepped in with the kind of peace that doesn't announce itself. You were wrapped in a storm, drowning in your own noise, racing thoughts, silent tears, and the kind of pressure that makes even breathing feel like work. And while the world demanded you to keep going, I stood at the threshold of your pain and entered without waiting for an invitation. Because love doesn't wait to be asked. While the world offered deadlines, I brought divine delay to bring healing. While people scrolled past your sorrow, I studied every crack in your heart like a holy map. I walked in quietly, but I came with thunder in my spirit, to shake loose the chains you've worn like invisible armor. You've been strong for so long that even your prayers have grown weary. You smile out of habit, not hope. You rise in the morning not with joy, but out of necessity. You've mastered the art of functioning while fading. But I see you. I have never stopped seeing you. You didn't hear me knock because your mind was too full, your soul too exhausted. So I did what love does, I stepped inside the ache. Not because I needed to fix you, but because I refused to leave you in the ruins of what once was. I came for the pieces, yes, even the shattered ones, because nothing in you is too broken for me to hold. This moment, this very second, is divine. Not chance, not random, but orchestrated by heaven. You didn't stumble onto this word. This word was sent to rescue you from the brink. It's a holy interruption, a sacred ambush of grace. I didn't come to observe your pain. I came to dwell in the middle of it, to become the calm you've been begging the universe to send. You've been whispering prayers at midnight, hoping someone would hear them even though you've stopped expecting answers. But I caught every syllable, yes, even the ones you couldn't finish. I held your whys when you buried them beneath your pillow. I wrapped myself around the silence you thought no one noticed, and now I'm here, right here, in this very space where you almost gave up. In the room where your tears fell like sacred rain. I was never absent. I was never unaware. You thought your cries were wasted, but your tears were worship and heaven moved because of them. The weight you carry? It's been slowly suffocating the vibrant soul I created in you. But today I've come to lift it off. Not all at once. No, I don't rush your healing. But piece by piece, tear by tear, breath by breath. Until you remember who you were before the world told you to be someone else. You've become so used to holding it all together that you forgot what it feels like to be held. But today I am holding you. I didn't come to lecture. I came to linger. To stay longer than the pain. To love deeper than the wounds. To remind you that you are still worth rescuing. I know you've questioned if anyone would stay long enough to understand the depth of your weariness. You've been left unread by people who swore they'd always listen. You've been forgotten by those who once called you their person. But I never walked away. When everyone else grew tired of your sadness, I drew closer. When you whispered, I can't do this anymore, I whispered back, you don't have to, because I'm doing it with you. You see, love like mine doesn't flinch at the mess. It doesn't flee when the darkness creeps in. It doesn't shrink when sorrow expands. I stepped into your shadow with eternal light in my hands. Not to blind you, but to illuminate what you forgot. That you are not alone. You never were. You never will be. This is not just a word. It's an encounter. This is not just comfort, it's transformation. Let me into every room of your heart. Yes, even the locked ones. Let me sit in the ashes with you until we build beauty again from what's been lost. Stop hiding. Stop pretending. I'm not here for your performance. I am here for your pain. And I am not leaving. So breathe now. Not just to survive, but to feel me. In the rise and fall of your chest, I am closer than the next breath. Let the silence settle because it is now holy. Let the stillness surround you because I've turned this room into a sanctuary. The world spins on, unaware. But I stopped everything, heaven paused just to sit with you here. And what happens next? You don't need to force it. You just need to let me carry you to it. This moment marks the shift your soul has been desperate for. And it begins right here, in this sacred space, with me. My beloved one, if your heart beats with faith and your soul finds refuge in my name, then respond boldly, let your action reflect your belief. That act, though small in appearance, is thunderous in heaven. It's not just a token, it's a testimony that you believe I am your provider, your sustainer, and your deliverer. When you give out of love, not out of pressure, it declares that my kingdom is worth advancing and that souls still matter in a world drowning in noise. Understand this, I'm not impressed by perfection. Your efforts don't earn my presence. I'm moved by truth. I draw near when the masks come off and when your spirit dares to cry out in its most vulnerable state. In the moments you felt torn apart, scattered and unsure, I stood firm. I didn't flinch. I didn't retreat. I didn't disappear when your voice cracked in the dark. Even when your mind convinced you I had left, I was there, closer than your breath, watching with eyes that see past your shame into the treasure of your soul. That ache you've been carrying, the one that doesn't ease even after the tears dry, it's not unfamiliar to me. I never meant for you to walk through it alone. I didn't send vague hope or distant light. No, I came myself. I came because your pain demanded a presence, not a philosophy. Every tear you cried in secret was seen and sacred. Not one was dismissed. I gathered them all. Each one carries a weight that eternity will one day reveal. I hold your sorrow not like a burden, but like a jewel that proves you're still fighting, still breathing, still choosing to believe in something greater than what broke you. You were never beyond my reach. Never too ruined for my redemption. Never too loud in your desperation. I stayed because my love is not based on how lovable you feel. Your cries were not ignored in heaven. They echoed into the heart of the Father. They shook the throne room. You didn't need to scream to be heard. The softest whisper of your soul caught my attention like a trumpet blast. And that's why I'm still here. I'm not done healing what others stepped over. I'm not done lifting what you thought would crush you. I didn't come to merely observe your pain from a distance. I came to transform the very story the enemy tried to write over your life. I didn't walk into your room to leave quietly. I came to rewrite the ending. I saw when you tried to rest your body but couldn't quiet your soul. I noticed how the weight in your chest didn't lift with a deep breath. It stayed. It pressed. And you didn't know whether it was anxiety, grief, guilt, or all three braided together. But I knew. I felt it with you. You tried to explain it away, tried to stay busy, tried to call it just exhaustion, just another day. But I knew better. I recognized that heaviness for what it truly was, a spiritual ache begging for relief that this world could never offer. And as you stared into the darkness while everyone else around you slept, I stayed. I didn't just stand watch. I surrounded you. I wasn't somewhere distant hoping you'd make it. I was right there beside you, breathing strength into your weary lungs and holding space for your unspoken grief. When you turned over again and again, pulling the covers tighter, not for temperature but for safety, I was present, silently, tenderly placing my peace where no words could reach. I laid my hand on the pain hidden under your smile, on the fatigue that no rest seemed to cure. I sat in the silence and held the ache you didn't dare put into words. I stayed through every sleepless hour. I carried what you couldn't explain to anyone else. Every shadow you feared I saw through. Every thought that tried to convince you that you were forgotten, I refuted it with my presence. I wasn't waiting for you to pray the perfect prayer. I came because I already knew what was breaking you. I didn't need eloquence. I needed your heart raw and real. And I held it gently, fiercely, like a father who refuses to walk away. Even the memories that revisit you like storms, I've seen them too. I've stood between you and every lie that tried to take root. And where you've avoided looking, I've already walked ahead. Not to condemn, but to redeem. You've been trying to hold it all together, haven't you? But I never asked you to be your own savior. That was never your role. You don't have to pretend with me. You never did. The pain that silenced your voice, the sorrow that made you withdraw, the fear that stole your laughter, I've come to restore it all. I am the healer of broken stories, the mender of shattered dreams, the light that steps into the darkest corners without fear. Nothing in you scares me. No failure. No mistake. No broken promise. I knew you before you fell. I loved you before you cried. I chose you before you called out my name. I will keep sitting in the ruins with you until you realize they are the very place where resurrection begins. I'm not rushing you. I'm not leaving you. I am here now, still and always. You may not realize it yet, but every moment you felt crushed under the invisible weight of despair, every time your soul groaned in silence while your body stood still, Jesus was already in position. Right there, not watching from afar but standing as a barrier between your breaking point and the forces that were sent to destroy your peace. There were nights when it felt like the walls were closing in and your spirit couldn't inhale hope. But what you didn't see was that Jesus was surrounding you like an unshakable shield, absorbing every blow from the enemy that was meant to shatter you completely. Every unexplainable heaviness that clung to your chest like iron chains was not random, nor was it just an emotional low. It was spiritual warfare, and while you wrestled in the dark, Jesus was fighting battles in realms your eyes could never perceive but your heart certainly felt. The tears you didn't even have the strength to shed, the thoughts you couldn't find the courage to voice, and the questions that trembled inside your bones, all of it, every whisper, every pause, every sigh, was fully received by Jesus with more compassion than you've ever encountered in your life. While your thoughts raced like a storm refusing to calm, while anxiety etched itself into the corners of your breath, Jesus stood unshaken, unmoved, holding the line, refusing to step away even when you were convinced no one understood the depth of what you were going through. When your mind played out every worst-case scenario and your heart echoed prayers you didn't dare speak out loud, Jesus was closer than your own breath, responding not to the words you couldn't form but to the truth behind your silence, the cry embedded in your being that only he could fully interpret. This wasn't just a rough patch or an emotional low. This was a divine intervention where the Savior himself took upon himself the burden you couldn't articulate, the pressure you couldn't relieve, and the fear that was choking the joy right out of your days. There is a power in knowing that Jesus doesn't wait for perfect phrases or polished prayers. He leans into the fragments, the broken thoughts, the half-sentences you mutter under your breath and calls them enough, because his love does not require perfection, only presence. Even when you believed that your midnight wrestling was unnoticed, that your silent breakdowns would go unrecorded, the King of Heaven was already shifting things in your favor, already moving pieces in the unseen to bring you into the light that you couldn't even imagine coming. When your eyes were wide open at 3 a.m., not in awe, but in survival, trying to understand if morning would offer strength or just a repeat of yesterday's exhaustion, Jesus was not only near. He was already preparing new strength for you, strength that doesn't come from sleep but from his Spirit. You didn't carry that agony alone, not even for 1 second. The pain that felt like it would never break was a signal to Jesus to draw even closer, to dig in deeper, to anchor himself inside your soul where fear had tried to build its fortress. He heard every unfinished question and every pleading thought, even the ones you dismissed as unworthy of prayer, and he answered them, not always with instant relief, but with his unwavering presence that never left, never faltered, never failed. There were burdens you didn't even realize you were carrying, pressures that had settled into your being like dust over time, and yet, while you slept, while you distracted yourself, while you tried to cope, Jesus was quietly removing them one by one, never needing thanks, never requiring recognition. In the most intense, most chaotic moments where it felt like the world was pressing against your chest, Jesus was doing his greatest work. Lifting, carrying, standing firm, because his love isn't just comforting, it's confrontational against the darkness that tries to lay claim to your life. He stood guard over your soul when you had no fight left, no words, no plan, and no clarity, and in that sacred space of your weakness, his strength took over, not to shame you for your vulnerability but to prove once again that grace isn't earned, it's received. Even when you were too weary to finish the sentence, too broken to pray, too numb to believe, Jesus understood it all with divine precision, and he moved with all of heaven's authority to ensure that the enemy could not cross the line he had drawn in your defense. The fear that tried to silence your worship, the doubts that tried to steal your faith, the lies that whispered you were alone, all of them were exposed and silenced by the unwavering truth of his presence that never left your side, not even for a heartbeat. Jesus didn't wait for your strength to return before stepping in. He came in the moment you started to collapse, because that's what love does, and that's what he is. Love that stays when others leave, love that fights when you can't, love that speaks when you're too overwhelmed to find your own voice. He didn't just hear your cries, he felt the quake in your spirit before a single tear ever fell, and he moved swiftly, completely, powerfully to surround you with mercy you couldn't see and protection you didn't know you needed. I have watched you carry what was never yours to hold alone. You've tucked pain into hidden pockets of your soul, silencing your suffering because the world rarely gives room for tears that don't have an explanation. But I want you to know, no ache you've endured, no internal battle you've fought has ever escaped my attention. You were never invisible to me. Not once. Every unspoken prayer, every sigh released in the stillness of your room when your lips couldn't form words, reached my throne with the weight of thunder. I caught each one. I collected your broken sentences like priceless songs, composing them into a symphony that only heaven could truly understand. I was there when you wept in silence, when your courage wore thin, when your heart felt too fragile to face another morning. You were never crying alone. I was seated beside you, counting every tear not as weakness, but as worship. I know the language of your silence. I interpret your exhaustion. And I have memorized the cadence of your quiet surrender. You didn't have to explain your pain, I already felt it. Long before you admitted the struggle to yourself, I was walking through the fire with you, shielding your spirit from collapse, refusing to let you be crushed beneath the weight that tried to consume you. The world may have trained you to expect coldness in response to vulnerability, but I am not the world. I am not distant. I am not delayed. My presence doesn't waver with your performance. I move closer when others withdraw. I lean in when your strength gives out. Even your most fragile prayers have authority in my presence. Even your most shattered whispers stir the heavens. There is nothing too quiet for me to notice. I created the stillness. I designed the echo. And in the sacred space where you felt most alone, I have always been present. Fiercely, attentively, compassionately present. This moment right now is not accidental. This is not a coincidence. I orchestrated this meeting with divine intention. I've come to answer what you didn't even know how to ask. Every midnight wrestle, every word you swallowed out of fear, every memory you buried out of survival, none of it went unseen. I have kept record not to accuse you, but to redeem every moment the darkness tried to define your future. You matter more than your circumstances have led you to believe. You are not discarded. You are not forgotten. You have never been too far for me to reach. You have never been too broken for me to restore. The pain that tried to make a home in your bones? I've come to uproot it. The shame that curled itself around your identity? I've come to silence it. The regrets that taunt you when you try to sleep? I've come to dismantle their grip. You've heard voices that told you to be stronger, quieter, smaller. But listen now to the voice that created you. This voice tells you it's time to rise. It's time to heal. It's time to breathe again without apology. I'm not here to hold a mirror to your mistakes. I came to carry away the weight they left behind. I'm not recording your failures. I'm rewriting your future. Not one piece of your story is wasted when placed in my hands. I do not count scars as marks of shame. I count them as signs of survival. And I am here to turn every scar into a testimony that sets others free. Let me into the corners of your soul where even you are afraid to look. Let me step into the rooms you locked up because the memories were too loud. I come not with judgment, but with healing in my breath. I come not to tear you down, but to rebuild you from the inside out, with a strength that the world could never provide and a love that doesn't expire with your imperfections. The time is now. The healing begins here. Bitterness has robbed too many of your tomorrows. Guilt has borrowed too many of your todays. That cycle breaks with this breath, with this moment. I am here to reset what life tried to distort. I am restoring what fear dismantled. I am resurrecting what disappointment buried. Do not shrink when the light exposes your wounds. My light doesn't burn, it heals. I am the physician who knows every hidden fracture, every silent scream, every anxious thought you've dared not confess. I touch the places even you thought were beyond saving. I speak life into bones that have forgotten how to stand. You've limped long enough. You've doubted long enough. You've settled for survival when I destined you for wholeness. Let me in. Let me take your hand. I am not here to remind you of how far you fell. I'm here to remind you of who you are and whose you've always been. Chosen, loved, pursued, protected. From this moment forward, walk like someone who has been met by grace. Speak like someone whose shame has been silenced. Live like someone who knows they are seen by the King of Kings and cherished by the one who holds galaxies but still calls your name with tenderness. You are not an afterthought. You are not disqualified. You are not too late. You are exactly where redemption begins. And I am not finished with you yet. Best wishes. May this encounter mark the beginning of your deepest healing and boldest transformation.